I think I've been around long enough to know not to expect anything going into the summer. So at this time, I don't expect anything. I have no idea. And that's always the thing going into the summer. It's always the unknown of what a team is going to be when you don't have a lot of guys on the contract, when your whole team is not on the contract. From that standpoint, I don't know. One thing I do know, 13 years I've been here, years after I leave, I think the Miami Heat will always try to put a winning team on the court. And, I think it's always safe to say that.
Going to be close to a Final Four again. How much do you think that's going to sort of go into your off season as far as how you work out? What do you think about how you prepare for next season, being that close to being on the biggest stage again? How much will that drive you, I guess?
Well, in a different way. Like I said, after we played, I mean, with the team we had when the season ended, and the situation we was in with Game 7 on the road, we maximized the season. We all had vision of it being better, but we all had visions of our whole team playing at the same time, and giving us that opportunity. But we was out, Hassan and Chris, and big parts of what we wanted to do. So, mine and hopefully other guys, you're driven by, just wanting to continue to play this game at a high level. Want to be a part of something special, a big part of it, and that's what your individual work and everything you do over the summer is driven by.
Can a team be successful if there isn't a championship? I mean, based on what expectations or hurdles you've had to overcome, like health, is this season successful?
You can have a successful. I mean, as players, a lot of players will, people say championship or bust. Yeah, and that's when you. I could say that for a few teams probably, but not every team in the league doesn't have that, and it's impossible. For this team, this was a successful season. Coming from where we was at last year, you have to take steps. And I use the analogy all the time, but it's just like a baby. You have to crawl before you walk. You have to walk before you run. Et cetera, et cetera. And last year we started over, and and not making the playoffs. This year we came back. We didn't have the best luck, but we still was able to fight our way to one game away from the East Conference Finals. To me, that's a big step in the right direction. It doesn't guarantee you that the step's going to continue to go up that way, but from that standpoint of what we dealt with last season and coming back this year and what we dealt with this year, the season was a success.
Dwyane, do you anticipate a smooth free agency for you?
I don't know, man. I don't know what to anticipate. I don't pay myself, so I can't anticipate anything being smooth. Like I said earlier in the year, I hope it is. Hope everything from myself, is quiet and everything works out the way that I want it to, and whatever that is. But I have no control over that. As much as people would think, you have no control over how that necessarily is going to go. It's a lot of moving parts, in free agency. So, we'll see how it goes. I'm not worried about it at all. That's in July. I'm going to enjoy my day or two off. And then, when it's time for me to focus on my free agency part of July, I will for sure do that, but I don't know what to expect.
Would you like this to be your last contract?
Would I like this to be my last contract? I would like a lot of things. I would like to be 24 again. So, I'm not getting into how many years I want to play or what I want to do. Like I told you guys, whenever I decide that day is over, just because I signed a contract doesn't mean that it's going to be it. Doesn't mean I'm going to play that whole contract out. You just never know what's going to happen in the player's career. So, the contract that I look forward to signing this summer will be something that I'm comfortable with. And then whenever that ends, then I'll move on to the next one. If it's a contract, if it isn't, who knows? So you won't tie me down to no years.
Why would you?
You were vital. getting Joe to come here, now that you go into the summer, is probably going to be vital to keeping Hassan and some other guys. And are you going to be recruiting guys to play around you, or how do you approach the next step of this team being such a franchise anchor?
I've always tried to do my part. I think guys like that who's on your team, you have a relationship with those guys, and obviously throughout the summer you communicate, and each of us is in a different situation where we all are free agents. So so it's a little different than being under contract and then trying to say, hey, come and play with me. It's want to make sure that player and the individual is doing what's best for them. And that's what, with Hassan and, Luau and every one of our free agents, I individually, personally, just want what they feel is best for their career. Of course, you want to play with great talent, here at this organization. I would love to. But I'm a free agent like they are. So they have to make the best decision for them. And, you hope that decision, in some way, when they're good players, that you can benefit from it, just like the organization want to benefit from it. But outside of that, we'll communicate like normal, as normal teammates would.